listening to Fighting Game Follies.
It's the #1 podcast for low-level player opinions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Round 1.
Hello to all my masters, grapplers, simply psychopaths, Wi-Fi warriors, ultras, tournament organizers, everybody else in the entire FGC scope and spectrum. What's going on? It's your boy Griffey Games, Skyward Games.png. Be back at it again, another week of the Fighting Game Follies. This week, I don't really have anything planned that I necessarily, or I do have things that I want to talk about, but I'm gonna save that for later because I got some relatively on the bigger news, or I guess bigger news for me in specific, because about a week and a half ago, I would like to say, I ordered the stick way farther back, but about a week and a half ago, I ordered a Qanba Obsidian 2 Fightstick, and it actually came in. So for a time, I've been messing around with it. I've been trying it out, putting down some plot points and everything about things that I want to say about it, some good things, some bad things, and just overall go about what my whole thought process is and everything about it. So I'm gonna be listing off a couple pros, cons, the normal stuff, just talking about the things that I do enjoy about the stick, the things that I'm not really a fan of, and then everything else. So yeah, it's gonna be more of a laid back episode, nothing crazy, especially not after what happened 2 weeks in advance, or 2 weeks in the past. But yeah, I'm gonna be trying out the stick, telling you guys how I feel, or actually, giving my thoughts after about 2 weeks of playing everything, and just overall giving my experience on it right now, especially since this is going to be the stick that I take to Evo. So I might come back and do another review for this but when I decide to get another stick, I might come back, do the same thing, give my points on that. But with all further ado, sit back, relax, and I guess let's start, with the pros, everything about it, and real quick, let's just start talking about the stick itself and how it is built. So compared to the Qanba Obsidian, the OG one, right? One big thing that I'll talk about this more in detail when I'm talking about the cons of this. I guess right now we can call this section of pros. But one thing that I'm not the biggest fan about, but I do know why they did this, is because on the sides initially for the Qanba 1 Obsidian, you were able to stack it up on its side, and it would take up way less space. But here they actually have compartments that you can finger screw out, and then that houses a obviously your cord on the left side, and then on the right side you're actually able to swap out the shaft's head, or the top of the stick. So basically, right, it comes stock with the ball top. If you finger screw out the right side, and then do everything that you need to do in the back of the panel and everything, or not the back, but actually inside the stick, swap that out for a bat top, which is really nice, really innovative. I feel that's a nice thing, especially for Tekken players and everything, or just people who are more accustomed to the bat top itself. I feel that's a really nice option to have, be able to if you're playing a game where you're more akin to having a bat top as opposed to more akin to having a ball top, then I feel like having that option is really nice, and I feel that's something that's a really innovative thing to do, house it inside the actual stick itself. Another thing, obviously, since this is made for the PS4, PS5, it is very easy to connect to. If you take a look at the Mayflash F500, which has been my stick for about a year and a half now, it's bringing this thing on to any sort of tournament or anything is always a pain, because I gotta connect to a controller, then connect that controller to the console. Once the controller is connected to the console, I gotta wire it down back to the stick. And it's always a hassle to try and actually get connected to the console that I want to play on, which I'm glad, granted, with the Qanba, since it is a, PS5, PS4 exclusive stick, you're not gonna have the same I guess not nuanced, but you're not gonna have the same capabilities of playing it on your Switch or playing it on your Xbox or anything else. But honestly, I can sacrifice that for having a like just I plug it into my Xbox or I plug it into my PC, I swip a tab, boom, it's on PC mode. I plug it out, go over to a friend's house, swap it over to PS5 or PS4 mode, boom, easy as pie. I can watch everybody in Street Fighter 6 there. Which that's something I really do like. I guess that's sort of a knock to Universal Sticks since they do have to go through more hoops and everything in order to, I guess, get to the point of actually playing. But you know, right now I just think it's really good. One thing that I really am a fan of, even though I haven't had the chance to actually try it out yet, is the touchpad feature. And the reason why I say I haven't had the chance to try it out yet is because, funnily enough, I do not own a PlayStation console. Never have. I probably won't anytime soon. Actually, I might because we did get a lot of Spider-Man stuff recently. So, I might be in the market to, buy one so I can play Spider-Man 2. But I digress. That's for a later conversation with another group of people. So, I haven't had the chance to try out like how the touchpad feature works or like anything about that. It does feel like there is a button in here, so maybe potentially there could be some like button routing that you could potentially do. If you're playing like four fingered like normally how I do, you can maybe like move that pinky finger over, press that, get like a special little like three-way. I don't know what you could potentially do with it, but whatever you could do with it is like kudos to you, right? And that's also another thing that I want to touch on, just like the top button layout in general and just like the button layout and everything about it. I think the layout having everything all like faced up top, like it's all nice, it's sleek, it's clean. You got the three lines for your settings, obviously. R3 or L3 R3, turbo button. I'm never gonna use this because turbo is not a thing, and plus you get banned for it. So yeah, mute button for if you have a microphone connected to this thing, which I think, yeah, there is a microphone jack up on the top, so if you want to, you could also, play mic setup with that. Mute, unmute, everything. I don't know what this three line button is right here, separate from the settings button, but like right between the, or right next to the turbo button and the mute button, there's like a three lines like stretching outward. If anybody knows what that is, then please enlighten me down in the comments. What I think it is, or what I think is a tiny bit like, I guess, dumb is like the best way I can put it, is there's a lock and unlock feature for the settings up here, which I'm not really the biggest fan of, but oh well, it's there for a purpose. It's there for a reason why I can't really like talk about because I haven't used it. So yeah, overall that's like the Qanba 2. Actually, where's my screwdriver at? Because really quickly, I would like to take a quick little look inside so that I can talk about the wiring really quickly and then just give my thoughts on that. Because I think the first time that I actually opened this up, I thought this is not the right screw. But yeah, the first time I opened up the Qanba, I thought the wiring job was really good. I thought it was really sleek. I just want to like double check and make sure I'm not like talking crazy, even though I know I'm not talking crazy, but I just want to like actually talk more in depth about the wiring job and everything because I really do think it is solid. I really do think the guys over at Qanba knew exactly what they were doing when they were in the lab designing this thing. So once again, kudos to them. And overall, I do just think this is a really good stick. In general, all for the time that I've had it, I do have a tiny bit of gripes and everything. Um, just like a couple, not it's like smaller things, like, and that's probably, they could be more akin to like human error rather than like me having an issue itself with the stick. But I guess like once I actually get into this and like start talking about the con section, then I can talk more about like the things that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. And also, since I didn't necessarily explain this before, or actually like say this, I am playing these sticks stock. Both of them I've played stock. The Mayflash 500, I played stock for the entire time, and obviously for the Qanba, the like week and a half that I've had it, I've been playing it for stock. I am thinking about swapping out a couple parts, more specifically the shaft. But once again, I'll talk more in detail about that when I actually, start going over the cons and everything that I'm not really the biggest fan on in terms of like how things are necessarily done. Like I guess you guys could say that little tidbit earlier about like housing things inside the side panels. I guess you can call that a con, because I did sort of like the prospect of being able to hold up the stick on like its side. So if you want to like put it down really quickly, for like a quick water break or something, you could without having to like rest the entire thing down on the floor and then having to pick it up awkwardly. Which I feel like was one of the Qanba 1's strengths, because just having that ability to like sit it down real quick is like honestly really good, especially since this thing is like low key. This thing is a bit heavy. Like this is kind of like it's on the heavier side, but that means that it's not gonna wobble as much when you're mashing in your supers or anything, which could be both a benefit and a detriment depending on who you're at, or who you're talking to or who you're asking. And honestly, I feel like that's sort of the beauty of fight sticks as well. Like the fact that you can ask like, "Oh, thing do you like? What do you like the most about X stick, or what like parts go into it?" Like building a stick is essentially, or not even like just building, but like just having a fight stick in general, no matter like what kind it is, or just having a controller in general, is like very indicative of the person that you are when you play a fighting game, because it's sort of like a shorthand way of like showing what your views and values are. Like, and the obviously this doesn't apply to everybody, but like if you're playing with pad, then that means that you're more worried about like the air. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking stupid. But I just think having a stick, or just like having some sort of controller that you can really call your own, is something that I feel like fighting games do well, especially since like we sort of have a little mini culture about like sticks in general. Like I know like the parts itself, they have like a whole cult following. Like there's one guy on YouTube. I'll link his stuff in the description for this episode down below. But he does like part reviews and everything. He goes over. It's really well done. It's really well made and everything. And I just think it's a really good like it. The content's good. Like that's all I can really say. That the content is good. Is this gonna pop out? Hello? Was I not like screwing all of this out throughout my entire rambling? You know what? Whatever. We'll take a look at the back another day, because I wasn't screwing any of this stuff out. Oh wait. Whoa. Actually, hold up. Never mind. Because a bunch of screws just fell on me. I should probably like stop the recording and like be a bit more professional in trying to do this. But oh well. We go on with the flow. We shall flow with the goal and goal with the flow. I don't know how many screws fell out, so I might be like for all intents and purposes a bit screwed here, chat. Haha, I'm so funny. Um okay, I think we're out now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, we're cool. I actually am going to pause the recording here really quickly, just so I can like get everything situated and make sure I didn't lose anything. So I will be back in a quick second. Alright, so it seems like in the process of screwing out the Qanba, I've somehow managed to lose one of the tiny miniature screws here. Kids, word of advice, make sure that when you screw things out, you do it in a place that you're going to be able to see everything. Or just have screws that are like super bright neon colors. That way, if you do drop them or something, you don't look like an idiot on the floor trying to pick them up. But, as I was saying, heading back inside to the actual internals of this stick, might I just say that the wiring right here, like I was talking about earlier, is pristine, very minimalist, does not take up a lot of space at all. The stock gate that this comes with, for those who don't know, the gate is basically what separates like the lever from touching the excuse me, It's what separates the lever from touching everything else and making sure that, you know, like it stops specifically at where it's supposed to be at. It's basically like the guard to make sure that like the lever doesn't completely just go out of whack, or like it resets back to its neutral point. But the gate that it comes with is like the stock gate that you come with is a square gate. So for those who want to try a circular octagonal gate, be advised that that is something that like you have to get yourself. And yeah, just overall, the wiring job, it's like it's very clean. It is very clean. It is very nice looking. Just everything about this thing is like it's very solid. Like, and that's like the best thing that I could like possibly say about this. It is a very solid stick. The wiring is nice. Like everything is like very good. It's very, very good. And that's all I can really say. Like I think like the only thing that I would partly complain about is the fact that like the zip tied wires and everything, they do sort of seem sort of tangled. So if you want to swap out the buttons, you're going to be having a very hard, or not necessarily hard, but you're going to be having a time trying to do that, for like to say the least. Like that might actually be one of the issues. It's minimalist design sort of like leads it to be very tangled and compact, both in a good and bad way. But I guess we'll talk about that more in the actual pro, or the more con segment of the video itself. But overall, stick is very good. Stick is very like solid. I really like, compared to the Mayflash 500, which I'll probably like open up again in a second, like off cam or like off recording. But compared to the Mayflash 500, this very much is like a big upgrade, especially since this is a more like intermediate level stick, while the Mayflash is like more of an intermediate stick, or a more like beginner friendly stick.
Round 2.
So now, after talking about, you know, what I think is really good about this stick and everything, or like I guess slowly starting to meld into the cons of it, I guess we should, you know, like go full force and actually start talking about the cons. And the cons, you know, for me, it's sort of not a whole lot, but in my opinion, like the cons that are there sort of matter to me a lot. Obviously, that's why I, you know, marked them down. One thing being, if you take a look into the stick itself, actually, you see how its levering is done and like how its movement is done. That being the lever, when you press down on a thing, it will like press down, or when you know, move in a direction, you will press down on a switch and you won't press like on a tab. And I'm very much partial to a more tab based system and not the switch based system that Qanba here has for its stick. The reason being, in my time of playtesting, I tend to, or I can't really tell if this is more human error or anything of not, but basically, anytime I try and like double super, it won't register the entire thing. And I'm specifically going off of Street Fighter here and like Guilty Gear. My time in playing it in Guilty Gear, like, it's sort of also been a tiny bit shoddy, but then again, it could just be me still needing to get used to the like stick itself and how it does all of its things. Like for instance, the travel time for like when the button is actually pushed. But speaking of that though, like the travel time for it, it's very good. It's like very responsive. But then again, like if I push down and then it doesn't go all the way, like I think that might be the issue there. And I can't really tell. Once again, it could be a human error, it could be like anything really. All I just know is that it does make a tiny, like the tiniest bit of issues when I'm trying to do things like input certain actions and everything, like supers, because I can never, like, I'm a scrub. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a scrub. I like to super on wake up. But anytime I actually do try and super on wake up, it doesn't come out for some reason. And I know that I input the entire thing because I'm like, when I go down forward left, like it's a very specific motion that you can tell, like, all right, cool, I did not misinput that. So there's that. There's one thing. Another thing is, despite the stick being very like huge, I feel like it takes up way too much space for the amount of stuff that is actually put into it. and I feel like a lot of the things in here could have been like subbed out for like a fanny pack or something, or just the fact that it doesn't make like the most of the space that actually comes with it. So, and to give an example of what I'm talking about, the Mayflash F500. When I got that, I got an extra set of screws. I got a separate gate to work off of. Like, it came with a square gate. I swapped it out for an octagonal gate that came with it, and I think I got something else with it too. I can't remember, but I got three things when I brought the Mayflash F500 off of Amazon, right? Which, pretty solid. Like for a beginner stick, some might even say that's like kind of you know, exceptional, because if you buy a beginner stick and you don't know what you're really doing, you're not gonna want to open it up and then like, oh, I need to swap out the gate or like something else. Which is kind of crazy that they even like thought to come with an extra gate or just extra screws, because like I just talked about, I lost one of the screws. Hopefully I can find it, but if not, oh well, it's only one screw compared to like the 8 that it comes with, so it's fine. But just the fact that it came with so much, it's like very, oh, okay, cool. Even though this is a beginner stick, we still want to like start giving the tools to like for intermediate players, like once they start learning their stuff, and then like push them more onto a path of like experimentation with like how they want their certain setups and things to be, which I am a big fan of. I'm very much a fan of, all right, cool, give me the tools, I'll learn myself, and if I don't learn myself, I'll start coming to you with questions and everything, which is nice. Obviously, with the Qanba Obsidian 2, you don't really get that luxury because it just sort of comes with everything that it comes with in the box, and then afterwards, you're sort of like, alright, cool, if you want to accessorize, customize anything, that's more dinero that's going in our pockets, more time that you have to wait, etc., etc. I've been holding off on getting, and actually, you know what, whilst we're talking about this, I can actually start segueing into my second point, that being the shaft, like, size. I think because this might also play into the fact why I like misinput things a tiny bit, and I'm not trying to John. First off, right? Like, let me preface that. Let me make that very clear. No Johns here, but like, anytime I try and like misinput things, the stick feels for like very like short, and it doesn't feel like it's like long enough. So that might be one of the things that I actually look into, like either before I go to Evo or like just around the time like I maybe swap it out for something, or like over there, because I know that the artist alley and everything is gonna be crazy. Once again, I'm like that's gonna be something I'm looking forward to, like looking at all of the artist stuff and everything. But I digress. Me getting a longer stick might be something that, or like just a longer shaft, is something that I might look into whilst I'm over there, like just so I can sort of maybe fix the issue of it not feeling, or of it feeling like way too short. So hopefully that's like something that I'm able to fix eventually. If not, oh well, I guess I'm sort of screwed. That, and like I said earlier, like the sort of misusing of space, and like how the wire game, even though it is very like compact and it's very nice to look at, it still feels very much like tangled, and like it's neat in a chaotic way. Like, it's sort of like the alignment chart of being like chaotic good. Like, even though it is very neat, everything is so like jumbled up and like tangled together in within itself. I know that if I do decide to like swap out the buttons for something, or if I want to, swap out the lever and the shaft, which I'm eventually going to want to do, since I feel like the shaft is a tiny bit too short for my liking, I'm going to, have to deal with that, like, absolute nightmare of a wiring game. Which I guess that'll come like in time of me like messing around with the stick and everything, or I might just get used to it. But still, just the fact that like the wiring game itself, it's very nice, but it's also not really the best. Like at the same time, it's sort of hard to like describe, but I guess I'm describing it right here. So yeah, though those are like the two biggest like issues that I have with it. It's misusing of space, and the fact that like the space it does use, it doesn't even need to like be taken up like to begin with. And also, I just feel like the side panels as well, like how I talked about, oh yeah, it houses the bat top and the ball top. I think that's a really cool thing. It's sort of showing the same like ingenuity that I was talking about with the Mayflash and how it gives you like a bunch of its stuff. But like that's the only thing that it's there to do. Like you have this entire compartment that only holds one piece, and like oh, whoa, One Piece is real, ha ha ha. But it only holds one piece of equipment because let's be honest here, if you're using a specific top, right, like if you swap out the bat top for the ball top, you put the ball top in the thing, you're realistically only using that one side of the cabinet to hold the ball top, which in my opinion is such a misuse of space and like just completely abysmal, because that could have been held for like, you put in a little extra slide and then boom, it houses like a second gate or something, or maybe like a little miniature screwdriver, or like a tiny compartment to hold like extra screws or something. Like if you're only using this to hold like a single like top and that's it, I feel like that's like a really big like misuse of space that could have been done like better. Like something better could have been done for that. But overall, that's like my take on it. I still do think this is a really good stick. Like honestly, this is going to be more of a intermediate like to more advanced stick, I guess. But I guess if you want more intermediate to advanced stuff, then you can start looking into the field of potentially like building your own. It's sort of like the best way I can describe a stick is sort of like a computer. Like obviously, if you don't know what you're doing, then you're gonna get something that like people who do know what they're doing are going to recommend to you. And then once you start breaking out, once you start like learning a tiny bit more about the industry and everything, you learn what parts you want to get, you learn how you want it to be built, how it wants to be shaped, etc., etc. Then you're gonna start looking into how to build it. And then once you start looking in how to build it, then you're truly going to be like unstoppable. But I'm not exactly at that point yet. I do have all of the technical know-how and everything to do that stuff. I just don't feel comfortable with like the wiring, soldering cables, looking for like the Raspberry Pi and everything to like form fit everything. But I digress. We'll talk about building a stick and everything to like for later. If I'm not mistaken, Corey Gaming has an amazing video about like his stick and the sticks that like he's gone through and he uses. Like he has a very very beautiful wedding anniversary gift of like an Itoki like white and gold, which like mwah, chef kiss, bro. Like wife was amazing for picking that out for you, dog. Kudos, like biggest ups. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about with like this stick itself. Like I'm probably gonna weigh out of like pros and cons and everything and talk about a tiny bit more about what I like and what I dislike about it, and then sort of give you guys the verdict about how I feel about it like shortly.
Round three.
So overall, now that I've sort of talked about the pros and cons about how I feel about the Qanba 2 and everything, having a tiny bit more time to mess around with it, the general consensus is I really do think this is a really solid mid-level stick. I really do think it is good. It gives you the tiniest bit of opportunity to like start messing around and like maybe start swapping out parts and everything, which is nice. I really do like that, but I feel like in the ways that it sort of enables you to do actually swap out parts and everything is something that I feel like could have been worked on. The overall management of space and everything is also something that can sort of be called into question, because I think that like having a super huge base just to only really use the side panels and then barely use the side panels at that to house like wires and then like two other things, which granted you're always going to be using one of them, I also don't really feel like is a smart thing. Granted, you could like swap out the ball top for like something else but still, and then like house it in there, but even then, just the fact that like it's most of the time the one cabinet or component isn't even going to be used because you're not going to be swapping it out, so it's just sort of there to like waste space. And I feel like that could have like that space could have been used for something way more useful, or like just overall something better. I am going to probably come back to this once I either A, get my third stick, or B, I, just like probably come back after my whole Evo expedition and everything. I might do like a little miniature segment talking about, like, I might just talk about that. When I actually do, go over and then like start playing on a competitive scope and then really get like the know-how and everything on how I feel, especially when I'm in like I guess more akin and adapted to it as opposed to just like the 2 weeks that I have with it now. But overall, I do think like I said, the stick is pretty solid. There are a couple kinks and everything that needs to be worked out, but depending on if that's like actual human error or if it's the stick error, still, needs to be called into question. Overall, if you are looking to get a better fight stick, I would recommend the Qanba Obsidian 2. Like, I would have personally liked for them to still have the option to like buy the one. I don't like how Qanba's official website it's just sort of like scrubbed all instances of its first rendition of their fight sticks like just away, so you can't even buy them now. Which kind of blows because I would have liked to buy the Qanba one as opposed to the Qanba 2 and then just come out with a firmware patch in order to make it PS5 and PS4, compatible. But I understand why. That probably takes like, a different board and everything. But I feel like, if need be, you could have just swapped out the board or like I just said, come out with a firmware update to make it compatible or something else. But I'm not the CEO of Qanba. I'm just over here giving my 2 cents on it. So yeah, I think the stick itself is really solid. I think this is a really good like intermediate level stick. Probably like going to be using this and then like maybe just flip flopping between this and then the Mayflash depending on like what I'm doing. I'm most definitely going to be taking this stick with me to Evo though. So like I said, I will be giving my like more detailed analysis on it when I'm like in an actual tournament setting using this like in a legitimate tournament scope and everything. But yeah, overall, I think it's solid. I think the price point for it is like a tiny bit too rich for my blood, or not. Whoa, not rich for my blood, but like I feel like it being placed at $300. I think like almost 320 with tax. That not really the best. But then again, if I'm not mistaken, a hitbox is also running like a person like 300, which is crazy. I feel like Fight Sticks in general should just maybe be a tiny bit more on the not necessarily cheaper side because I understand these things like these pieces of equipment and technology take time, effort, and everything to make, but I feel like they should be a tiny bit more accessible as to, make the entire medium of fighting games a tiny bit more accessible as well. But since this is more of like a niche thing of like, this is normally for more dedicated players or like people who have been using it for like a while or like people who are so into the thing like they want to get the genuine experience. I can sort of understand why they would want to charge a tiny bit extra for a stick or like a really good stick. I mean, like, I didn't even grow up playing pad, or I grew up playing pad, and I was so interested in, playing stick that I was like, I'm gonna like buy the Mayflash, and then afterward, after a year, I'm like, all right, cool. I think I can actually start playing more, um, or I can actually invest in like a better stick because I do want to actually, try and invest and get better at fighting games and make a legitimate like career out of this as like a historian or something. I just want to play the games on the thing that I think is good. So yeah, I've said it like 3 times. Qanba is really solid. I think if you have the money for it, then and you want to like try it out, then I do suggest trying it out. I would say though, like maybe doing a tiny bit of research as to what you are looking in for if you do want to get a stick. And I guess this is also sort of like a miniature shout out to like the Mayflash as well, since that was a really good first beginner stick, especially with like all of the praises and everything that I was seeing with it earlier. But now that we're done talking about that, there was like a tiny bit of like little news that I guess I could like sprinkle in here, since this is relatively important and relatively, or not even relatively important, but basically before the game even dropped, because a lot of games like doing this now, before the game even came out, Mortal Kombat decided to bless us with who is going to be in the first combat pack. and I'll probably have a more like in-depth talk about this later, like when we get like more news about it, or like probably when more stuff for Mortal Kombat comes around. So I'll most likely like do a little roundabout and then actually talk about it. But 6 characters in the combat pack, which is cool. Takeda, Ermac, Quan Chi, and then we got Homelander, Peacemaker, and Omni-Man, which I'm not gonna lie, the leaks already said that these characters were coming, so I wasn't like super amazed. Like I wasn't taken aback. Like whoa, oh my god, I'm so surprised. But like at the same time, just seeing all of the models and everything, like in the game itself, it's very very jarring, especially with Peacemaker and Omni-Man specifically. And also apparently I also saw on Twitter that Omni-Man is going to be being voiced by J.K. Robinson, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's the dude that voices J. Jonah Jameson in like almost all Spider-Man media, if I'm not mistaken. So that's gonna be interesting to hear. Like we're basically gonna have like J. Jonah Jameson like beating up fake Superman because real Superman does not, like, no red rule, I guess. Um, Thoughts on the thing itself. I'm way more interested in like Takeda, both story wise, if he even is going to be in the story, and gameplay wise as well. Because in Mortal Kombat X, like the 3 characters that I would consider myself like to main in that game was Johnny Cage, Takeda, and Kenshi. For those who don't know, like brief little rundown on like Takeda because this is the character that I want to talk about for the rest of the episode. But basically, he was taken in by the Shirai Ryu. You know, the Shirai Ryu was the Scorpion's clan. He uses like sort of whips and formulates more on like the, I guess, the get over here thing that Scorpion does, and sort of makes that his entire thing. Now since there isn't a variation system, I sort of wonder like what bits and pieces they're going to pull from his movesets in X, and then see what they're going to fit in that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Ermac, he's a thing staple, he's a series staple, so I'm not really surprised. Quan Chi, once again, like not really surprised. I don't really know what it like is gonna be in store for them. I'm more interested in what these finishers for, or not finishers, excuse me, what these X-rays and fatalities are going to be like for Omni-Man and Homelander and everybody, and Peacemaker, like specifically, because I know like Omni-Man in specific, dude is brutal. Like I didn't watch Invincible, but everyone's seen like the Mark beatdown scene, like in the last couple episodes. So I'm very much excited for that to maybe get referenced somehow. I don't know what Warner Bros and like NRS is going to be able to get away with, but I know I'm very much interested for Omni-Man in specific. Like the one that I feel like has the most potential, Omni-Man. The one who I feel like is I'm going to enjoy a lot, Takeda, and then the one who I feel like is probably going to be asleep, like nobody's going to care about, is Ermac. Because respectfully speaking, Ermac is like low key kind of lame. It's like nobody cares. I rarely see like actual Ermac players like out in the wild. It's just like, oh, it's either I accidentally chose this character or I just don't like myself because I play Ermac. But I feel like that's gonna do it for today's episode for the Fighting Game Follies, episode 23. Going over the Qanba and everything, like I said, giving my thoughts. I don't really have anything else to, no recommended run back, no anything really. All the links for all of the stuff that I talked about will be in the description for today's episode, like it always is. Once again, I really do appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening in to me ramble on about like all of the stuff that I always ramble on about. It really does mean a lot. Evo is coming up very soon. If I'm not mistaken, Rashid is also coming out. Depending on when this episode gets out, like he's either going to be out or he's going to like be coming out soon. If I'm not mistaken, which kind of blows because that's bad management on my part. Life gets in the way of a lot of things, which kind of blows. But oh well. We keep it pushing. Like Nick A30 said, never give up, never back down. So yeah, thank you all so much. Like I said, I keep saying I'm like a broken record. I really do appreciate it. All of my socials and everything can be found in the description below if you want to see whatever stupid stuff I'm tweeting about. Which, by the way, I also did see that Twitter is apparently thinking about rebranding itself to X. So I guess you can find me on like X now. I don't know, man. That's stupid. But yeah, you can find the socials and everything down in the description. You can find pretty much everything you need down in the description. It's almost as if I put all of the resources and everything that you would need to see down there if you want more information. But yeah, that's it. That's gonna be all from me. I've been your host, Screw for Games, Skyward Games.png, whatever I'm going by for this week's like tournament, and I forever will be your host, Screw for Games, Skyward Games.png. I seriously need to figure out like a name that I'm going to stick with. Like I can't just circle between all three of my tags, but oh well. I guess we can. Maybe I should like put a poll down in the description or something, and be like, choose what name I go with for like the rest of the thing. But we'll save that for another day. We'll save that for something else. So yeah, I guess I'll just see you all in the next one. Please take care of yourselves. Be sure to go play some fighting games. Play some Third Strike, yo. I love Third Strike. Play Third Strike. Play Second Impact. Play New Generation. Play Second Impact, and then specifically play Sean in Second Impact, and then tweet about how you like playing Sean in Second and Third Impact. That way, um, Capcom devs can like see that the people want Sean, and then they bring him back for six. Please, I really want Sean in six. But that'll be all for me. I guess I'll see you all in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Love you. Later.